Welcome, everyone. This is Eric Glazer, and this is your Sharp Squares podcast for week 4 of the NFL season 2023-24. Last week, all our Sharps in aggregate were a mere 50.7%. Our medal games correlated to that, 1-1. Pick 5 on DraftKings, we were 2-3. And in 3-2-1, we fared a bit better, going 2-1, 4 out of 6 points there. Our season so far, the Sharps that we cover are 51.9%. Medal games are 69.2%. That's 9-4, if you want to do the math. Pick 5 is 66.7%. And in 3-2-1, we are at 77.8%. These numbers at this point in the season, I think, have little value, but we report on them each week to be transparent with all of you and that you know we are keeping it straight and narrow with all of you throughout the season. All right. I am traveling this week. I'm actually playing in a little Ryder Cup event that coincides with the Ryder Cup that we call the Google Cup. It's our 24th year, so I am taking off. It will be very interesting to see how Greg makes our picks without my influence. But fortunately, our system does not rely on a lot of subjectivity. Our picks are made objectively. And for the most part, it all starts with a little process that we call gold, silver, bronze. And to deliver this valuable information is everyone's favorite fellow degenerate, the Greg Roth.
Thank you so much, Eric. This week, another lean week. There are 2 medal games. 2 medal games, 1 gold, no silver, and 1 bronze. The gold game, the pick is the Buffalo Bills. They're -2.5, hosting the Miami Dolphins. A.J. Hoffman, Marco D'Angelo, Stuckey, Fabian Summer, Eric Eager, Whale Capper, Will Brinson, the Favorites podcast, and Cleve TA all picked Buffalo. There was dissent on Miami, not surprisingly, from R.J. Bell, R.J. White, and Mike Lombardi. The second medal game, it's bronze, the pick. It's the Cleveland Browns. They're -2.5 at home, welcoming the Baltimore Ravens. Fabian Summer, Gil Alexander, Stuckey, Scott Seidenberg, A.J. Hoffman, and Steve Fezzik all picked Cleveland. Again, a medal game with quite a bit of dissent. Cleve TA, Mike Lombardi, R.J. White, Will Brinson, and Joe Ranieri all picked Baltimore. So, Buffalo is gold, Cleveland is bronze. Last week, we only had 2 medal games, but we had 4 additional games that were very close to medal status that made picking our 5 picks for the pools very easy. This week, no such luck. We really had no other games that even came close to medal status, so we were left with not much to work with to round out our pick 5. However, the next 2 highest rated games, I'll tell you, are the 49ers. Let me set that up for you. They're hosting the Arizona Cardinals. A.J. Hoffman, Scott Seidenberg, and Adam Chernoff picked San Francisco. That pool line, by the way, is -13.5 on San Francisco. Ross Tucker did pick Arizona. That was the 3rd rated game. Without having any other options, we're going to include that in the pick 5. The 4th highest rated game, the pick was the Carolina Panthers. They're +3.5 at home, welcoming Minnesota. Kelly Stewart and Ross Tucker picked Carolina. And that was really it. But our 5th game is going to be Seattle. Why? Because in the pool, we're getting +0.5. They're at home, +0.5 versus the New York Giants. Gil Alexander, Tommy the Hitman, Fabian Summer, and Eric Eager all picked Seattle. The Whale Capper picked the Giants. The current line in that game is Seattle -1.5. So because of that 2-point line movement and really no other options, we moved in that game as our 5th pick. So to recap, the Bills are gold game, the Browns are bronze game, the the 49ers and Panthers, the next two highest rated games. And then Seattle becomes our fifth pick because of that 2-point line value. For 3-2-1, we have an extra wrinkle. With those lines in our 3-2-1 pool, just like last week, where the Browns, which weren't even in our top five, all of a sudden became our 3-point game in 3-2-1. Same thing happened this week, except this week, the winner of that wonderful distinction is the New England Patriots. They're traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. They're +7 in Dallas. Steve Fezzik, RJ Bell, Marco D'Angelo, and Ross Tucker all picked New England. Cleve TA and Descent picked Dallas. So New England in our 3-2-1, because of that difference between 6.5 and 7, rockets up the board as our 3-point game. If you're wondering what happened to our gold game in 3-2-1, Buffalo, well, they're -3 in 3-2-1. So to go from -2.5 to -3, they fall off the chart for 3-2-1. So our 2-point game will be the Browns, who are we're the second highest rated game still because the line didn't move. And then we're going to take Seattle and move them ahead of all the other games to make them our 1-point game. Our line in the Seattle game is +1.5. It's currently Seattle -1.5. So that 3 points of value puts them as a 1-point game. So again, to recap, 3-point game Patriots, 2-point game Browns, 1-point game Seahawks, pick 5, Bills, Browns, 49ers, Panthers, and Seahawks. If that's all you were looking for, you are now dismissed. If you want to stick around for some trends and some handicapping highlights of the two medal games, I'm going to welcome in the ambassador, Dave Eby, to take you away.
Thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate it. By the way, did an awesome job with the 3-2-1, especially. So complicated this week. It's incredible. Anyway, we've got some good trends this week. First one has to do with teams that are 3-0 against the spread going into week 4. Since 2005, teams that are 3-0 against the spread in week 4, the favorites are 26-16 against the spread. That's 62%. Underdogs, just 4-13, 24% against the spread. That applies to 3 games this Sunday. There's one favorite that fits that trend, the Eagles -8.5 against the Commanders, and then 2 underdogs, the Dolphins against the Bills and the Cardinals +14 at the 49ers. Dolphins were 3-point dogs. The second trend is since 2005, when 2 winless teams play in week 4, that is 2 0-3, or when 0-3 teams play, the underdog has gone 71, 37-4, which is 66%. So there are 2 0-3 matchups in week 4. The Panthers +3.5 at home against the Vikings, and the Bears +3.5 at home against the Broncos.
The last trend, all these trends, by the way, courtesy of Bet Lab, since 2003, teams that lost the previous game by 30 or more points have gone 136 and 108. That's 56% against the spread in their next game. Who is that applicable to? The Commanders +8.5 at Philadelphia. And it's also applicable to the Bears and the Broncos, except they play each other. So I guess that trend will be 1-1 in that game. Handicapping highlights, the gold game. The Bills are the pick. These highlights courtesy of Chris Deester. The theme, the Bills are a better all-around team, offense and defense. Now, in pre-production, Dave and I had a little debate about this. I was like, really? The Bills are a better team on offense and defense. He clarified it for me. He said, no, what they're saying is the cumulative team is better, not necessarily that the Bills' offense is better than Miami, although, well, I guess we'll find out. It's only week 4. From Stuckey, the Action Network, he admits it's scary fading Miami. However, other teams have also gotten off to a hot start historically and then struggled in week 4. Teams that are undefeated straight up and against the spread, like Miami after 3 weeks, are 0-4 ATS in week 4. 3 of those 4 losses have been by the Dolphins, including a loss to Cincinnati in week 4 last year when Tua suffered a head injury. If I recall, I think that injury happened like on the first series in that game when Tua left. Miami has won games this year, but their opponents have not been all that impressive. Miami beat up possibly on the worst defensive unit in the NFL last week. That's Denver. Miami barely edged a weak New England team with a defense that couldn't pressure the QB. Also from Stuckey, head coach Sean McDermott knows how to scheme against Tua. Miami and Buffalo both have terrific offenses. The most important factor may be the offensive line. Buffalo's offensive line looked fantastic against a skilled Washington defensive line last week. Though both teams have great offense, Buffalo is the only squad with an equally skilled defensive unit. Stuckey thinks that Buffalo will be able to move the ball in Miami's defense with ease, and it should be able to keep pace with the Miami offense at home. If Miami falls behind, their defense may not be able to make stops late in the game to give their offense a chance to win. From AJ Hoffman, Dream Preview, the Bills have won this matchup at home 7 straight times in 11 of the last 12 meetings between the teams. These are the top 2 teams in DVOA. The Bills are 5th in offense. The Dolphins are 1st. The Bills are 2nd in defense. However, the Dolphins just 21st in defense. In the 3 matchups last year, the Bills had their way with the Miami defense putting up 450 yards per game, while the Dolphins averaged just 282 yards, although I'll say that was last year. Will Capper, he says he thinks the price is right for a tight divisional game. RJ Bell did dissent. He had a very thorough handicap, so stay tuned for the timestamp on that if you want to listen to it. He agrees that most square bettors will be on Miami this week after what happened last week, but this will fall into the reverse thinking since Miami is a better team than they were last year. Buffalo hasn't played a team in the top 20 this year and has lost a game this year. How can they be better than an undefeated team who has played a harder schedule? RJ asks. His last thing is he thinks there's a 20% chance that the Dolphins win by 30. He believes that may be a little high, but there's a chance Miami is doing something schematically that the whole league hasn't seen before. He also adds Tua is the fastest in the NFL in getting the ball out of the pocket, 2.24 seconds. Timestamps, Action Network, 17 minutes and 9 seconds. Forward Progress, 41 minutes, 15 seconds. Dream Preview, 1 hour, 23 minutes and 8 seconds. Matchbook, 15 minutes even. CBS Pick 6, 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, Greg, for the Ravens and Browns, where the pick is the Browns -2.5, we're going to start with the Dream Preview. And these highlights are courtesy of Patrick McQuillan. Dream Preview highlights / notes are from Edwin Ortiz and Scott Vick, so thank you very much for those. AJ Hoffman pointed out that Cleveland's defensive DVOA is -48%. And last year, the best defensive DVOA was -14.8%. So right now, they're 3 times better than the best defense last year. Of course, it's early. I'm sure there'll be some regression to the mean. The Cleveland defense has let 1 out of 39 opponents drive into their red zone. Out of 39 drives by their opponents, only 1 has gotten into the red zone, and that was Tennessee last week, and they didn't even score. So that's pretty impressive. AJ also pointed out, looking at Baltimore, that Lamar is number 32 in passer rating under pressure. That's 32 out of 34 quarterbacks, and you can bet that he's going to be under some pressure from the Cleveland defensive line this weekend. Timestamp for the Dream Previews handicap of this game is 16:45. And then looking at what Mike Lombardi had to say about this game from the GM Shuffle, notes by Corey Como. Lamar is 11-1-1 as an underdog, 9-4 straight up. And so that's something to consider. Both teams, he says, are good defensively. If you can get 3 points in this game, you need to take the Ravens. So keep your eye out for that. And he also points out that teams going into a bye facing divisional opponents are 49-19 ATS, and that applies to the Browns in this game. Timestamps, There were a lot of people who talked about this game, by the way. Action Network 805, Bet on It 3325, Beating the Book 5523, Mike Lombardi with the GM Shuffle that we just mentioned 4538, CBS Pick 6 3930, and Forward Progress 4450. And a couple of reminders as we wrap up this episode of the Sharp Squares podcast. All of the notes for all of the games can be found on Discord. And if you're not a member of our Discord community, you can go to sharpsquarespodcast.com and become a member. And the other reminder is that none of us are sharp, but this is your Sharp Squares podcast.
Good luck out there.